What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Happy Friday. We do have some news for the markets. We do have crypto right now kind of flat for Bitcoin. Ethereum pulling back, total 3 pulling back, stock market kind of flat. What's going on in the markets today? Is it going to be a pretty big weekend and monthly candle close for the markets? We're going to be taking a dive into the chart and see what could be going on. Going to be taking a look into the chart that I think personally everyone should be looking at. We're going to go over some news as well for Bitcoin, as well as some altcoins setup and news, which will include Huma Cronos, which was a request by one of my viewers and subscribers. I definitely recognize the screen name. Long time. I'm glad we're both still alive since 2020. TOSHI, USDT. See what's going on. I know there's some pretty big news surrounding these altcoins. Make sure to be staying until the end of this video to know my opinion and what the charts say about these coins. Now, if it's your first time on my channel, you guys should know that I dive deep into the charts every day to look for moves before they actually happen, right? Because let's face it, that's a lot lower risk than trying to chase a pump on the day of. If you guys actually chase pumps on the day of, let me know how that works out in the comment section below. I've been there. I've done that. I think there's a better way. And if you guys do want to learn technical analysis and charts, make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel as well, because I will get you guys a head start on how to read technical analysis, how I read the charts as well, and see the markets much more clearly for yourself. Alright, so something different today is that we're going to be taking a look at the news section first. I'm going to give you my reaction. Now, I am not a big believer of news because I firmly believe that whatever happens on the charts is the most important, okay? But I know that some of you guys are interested in the news, so let's go right into it and I'll give you guys my reaction. Let's take a look into some Bitcoin news. This is some recent news here on TradingView that you guys can find on your own. So let's see here. Let's read some headlines. Analysts predicts big drop for Bitcoin as bearish pressure mounts after 110K all-time high. Well, I mean, I think I know what they're talking about. I do see some sell signals on Bitcoin, namely on the weekly time frame, on the monthly time frame, on the RSI. I've been talking about that bearish divergence where it is indicating weakness on the bulls side, right? However, there has been exceptions, right? Namely the November 2020 breakout, which invalidated that weekly bearish divergence on the RSI. Monthly time frame, December 2020, where the bulls also invalidated that bearish divergence on the monthly RSI. So yes, the RSI is usually accurate, right, in indicating a pullback, but there has been exceptions, and these exceptions were huge, right, in terms of the breakouts. So, I mean, I am going to be considering both sides of the trade, right? Nothing is going to be 100%. I acknowledge the risk and the probabilities of things that could happen, and I have reference points on, what could happen, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to be looking into the charts and charting it on a shorter time frame and see if I can get any clues on, what is more likely to happen, basically hour by hour, right? Let's take a look into a few more pieces here. Now this is what I'm talking about. 7 hours ago, this piece right here, divergence signals flash red. Is Bitcoin headed for a reversal in June? Yes, so that's what I'm talking about on the RSI, right? And then this chart warns Bitcoin's momentum may be running out. Here's why. I'm pretty sure they're gonna, either talking about a indicator, which, I think a lot of indicators are very similar, right? They're mathematical, and you know, I think I know what they're talking about on the RSI, right? So it's basically what I just said. Let's take a look into let's see, Bitcoin price falls, SEC drops Binance case, and huge win for crypto. Barons.com. I mean, that sounds really good for crypto, right? Um, Bitcoin's moment is now as US debt train hits full speed. Experts. Yeah, I mean, I think the government's always going to be printing money, anyways, right? I mean, not like always, but in the long run, it's gonna be printing money. So assets are gonna be going up, right? So what really matters for me as a trader, right, is that it just depends on what part of the cycle that I actually get in. But in the long run, assets are always going to be going up. Governments are going to be printing money, right? And so it just really matters on what part of the cycle that I actually get into the trade, right? And that is going to be a huge determinant of if I'm going to be winning in the short to medium term. All right, let's go ahead and go to Huma USDT. Let's see, what is there. Is there any news on Huma today? There is actually no news from TradingView, so let's move on. Cronos. Canary Capital seeks SEC approval to launch first stake spot Cronos ETF in the US. That sounds pretty bullish for Cronos. Let me know what you guys think, right? I mean, they're looking for to launch a ETF, right? What else? What's interesting? This is some pretty outdated news from TradingView. I mean, we have one that's 3 hours ago, 6 days ago. Cronos, mainnet upgrade. Okay, May 19th. Cronos dumps by 6% daily despite this major partnership details here. Well, I think if Bitcoin dumps at the end of the day, the altcoins are going to be dumping anyway. So the first thing I'm going to be taking a look into is Bitcoin. That's the most important coin to be looking at in this crypto markets. That is the chart I keep in the back of my mind when I look for any altcoin setups. But that is just me personally. None of what I'm saying here in this video is financial advice, of course. Do your own research. Now let's go ahead and go to TOSHI. See what's going on in this markets in terms of news, right? No news for TOSHI. So let's go ahead and move on to charts, which is my more favorite segment here. Now, charts here, daily time frame. I talked about this yesterday, okay? We have hit a major support, which is the daily 21 SMA. Why am I saying that this is major support, right? It's currently at about 100, just right above 106K here. And why I'm saying this is major support is, well, you guys can back test, the daily 21 SMA here and see, the past 10 times when the price action hits the daily 21 SMA, as the first time, how many times has Bitcoin got a pretty good bounce? Okay, now it has to be the first time because as price action comes down to the moving average as support more and more, it gets weaker and weaker. Let's take a look into the 12-hour time frame here. What I'm talking about, the blue line here, 12-hour 21 SMA. First time it came down to the 12-hour, got a very good bounce. Second time it came down to the same moving average, got a slightly better bounce, but not as good as the first one. Third time it actually fell through. So something to be paying attention to, and that's why I called it the major support yesterday. So let's take a look into the hourly time frame. Okay, so this is a falling wedge, right, on a higher time frame. Right now, it looks like the bears are actually trapped right? It tried to break down from this falling wedge, but the bulls just bought it right back up and ends up back into this pattern. Okay, I definitely want to see higher time frame candles ending up within this pattern. That would tell me that this is this is going to be a much more solid bear trap here. And if this falling wedge actually breaks out, okay, the time frame I'm looking at is the daily time frame. If it breaks out, which it usually breaks to the upside, price targets, if it breaks out by this point, it's going to give us a price target of just right at 114K. Okay? Of course, got to consider the downside of this as well. If it breaks down, there is still a chance. And weekly time frame, got to be paying attention to this because we have bearish divergence. We've been talking about this, and we read the news just right now, right? Very important for the weekly candle to stay above about 104K here. That was the previous solid candle close here, indicating solid resistance. If we just retest that resistance and still end up with a higher low here, then the next logical move on this weekly time frame is a higher high. Monthly time frame, we also have, looking very likely that we have bearish divergence as well, unless this monthly candle closes below 102K. Okay, which is still, it's not that far away. So very important to be paying attention to monthly time frame close coming up in about a day. Okay, very likely that you're going to get divergence on here, but like I said, there has been exceptions in the breakouts. Let's take a look into Ethereum. Ethereum 4-hour time frame. Talked about this a couple days ago. Cup and handle pattern. In my opinion, still intact, right? We still have a higher low trajectory, right? Try to break out recently, not successful, but still valid pattern. The resistance, it's about 2750. Okay, total 3 chart looking different now. Why am I saying that? Because I talked about a cup and handle scenario. That cup and handle broke down. Okay, it usually breaks to the upside, but like I said, always got to consider the downside as well, right? It broke down and now it has formed a falling wedge. Okay, if this thing breaks out, which it usually does, to the upside, price targets for total 3, it's going to give us a price target of still just right above $1 trillion market cap. All right, let's take a look into Huma coin and see what's going on in this market. Fairly new coin here. And I think it's getting listed on, Binance. Correct me if I'm wrong. All right, so it had a huge pump, right? Just a couple of days data, all the way up to about almost, 10.5 cents there. Let's see what's going on in this market. It looks like it's forming some type of falling wedge. Right? Falling wedge. Price target. Hang on. It usually breaks to the upside. If it breaks out by this point, That's going to give a price target of about 6.3 cents. Now, price targets are estimates only. It could be more, it could be less. Still very good to get an idea of where price action could be going, right? So that's what I'm seeing on the shorter term time frame here for Huma. Let's take a look into TOSHI. See what's going on right here. Okay, weekly time frame, right? It did make a slightly higher high here, right? Comparing to this on the other side of this rounded bottom, right? So that is looking good to me on this weekly time frame. It does look like, I mean, it did break above the weekly 21 SMA, and when I see price action breaking above a moving average, it usually comes back down to retest that moving average as support, right? And then see what happens afterwards. So very likely that TOSHI comes back down to the weekly 21 SMA. Just my opinion, from my own experience. All right, so right now I do have a validated upper trend line. Okay, this looks like it could be possibly forming a falling wedge pattern, but we don't have a bottom trend line validated, right? It could be looking something like this, right? I like to estimate my trend lines with a potential support, and the weekly 50 SMA could be potential support. So it could be looking something like this, right? It's not developed, and that's pretty in line with the weekly 21 SMA as well. So that's what I'm looking at for TOSHI. If we want to see some higher price action for TOSHI, it definitely wants to hold above the weekly 21 SMA. Let's take a look into Cronos CRO USDT. This is a request by one of my subscribers, longtime subscriber. If you guys do have any requests for any altcoins, any coin in the market, drop a comment in the comment section below. I will pick one request to do for you guys every day. Now let's take a look into weekly time frame. Monthly time frame actually, because I want to see if there's an overbought RSI anywhere, and it doesn't look like it. It is actually looks like it's working off a higher low on the monthly time frame. Okay, the higher low was at about 8.7 cents, not too far away. I personally like entering on higher lows, right? And of course it depends on the time frame as well, but that is just me, right? Weekly time frame still looks like there is a higher low at about 9.7 cents, right? I'm not really seeing a particular pattern here, right? This could be a pattern. Yeah, this could very well be it. Right? So probably on a smaller time frame, this could be validated. Right? Let me see here. I like to just technically validate my patterns. I actually don't see a 3 candle wick touches on any of these time frames, but it still looks like a falling wedge to me. Right? All right, I think this is close enough. This is close enough for a 3rd candle touch here, right? So I am running out of time. So on the 2 hour, if you want to continue charting this, measure the opening of the pattern, put that measurement on top of this breakout point. You should get a measure target, price target. Still looks like it's very active. Okay, That's it for today. Thank you.